going on? What's going on?
Entertain the geeky.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm okay. Doing all right.
It's weird acting like we haven't been talking for the last 7 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, we're having a conversation. All right, let's count in.
Stop having a conversation.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah, now we're gonna act like this is new and fresh because
Yeah.
it is to the viewer or listener.
It is.
It's,
It is quite.
Yeah, totally bizarre. It's a weird thing that we do. And then, you guys give a shit. So, a few weeks back, I think on the mics you were like, "You need to watch The Last of Us. You need to watch this."
I did. Yeah,
And
I did.
we did. A friend of Tara's recommended it to her, and she was like, "Are you interested in watching this?" And I'm like, "I actually need to watch it because it's kind of entertaining, geeky homework."
Right.
So we did.
Okay.
Wowee.
Yeah.
Wowee. It was fun. It was a fun show. So I'll let you give a little bit of Last of Us background because you were you played it, you love it.
Yeah, I've played it to death probably at this point, way too many times. That's one of the things actually I've recently noticed because PlayStation has started putting your total logged hours next to your game title, and it's pretty scary how often I go back to games that I really enjoy. But yeah, I have played the game. I picked up the remake when they did The Last of Us Part 1 for PlayStation 5. That was really cool. That kind of made the two games consistent between each other as far as like character models and, you know, the look and the feel of the game. Combat, they changed the original combat of 1 to kind of make it more in line with what 2's combat had evolved into by that point. But they're great games. I mean, it's one of those games it's you know, you play a part of it, but it's a narrative, a very heavy driven narrative game that it's emotional, man. I mean, you get invested in who these people are. The actors behind the scenes that are doing, you know, vocal work and motion capture for their characters, they're actors. I mean, right. Andy Serkis kind of opened the door for that long ago when he played Gollum.
Oh my God, did he though?
Yeah, I think he did.
He did.
I think he was the first guy we looked at that walked around on the set in a goofy onesie with little dots on him. That was the first time we really kind of took that seriously because he took it seriously. This was not, he wasn't
Jar Jar Binks.
He wasn't voicing a character. He was giving the performance of this character, right? And it was going to come through in the CGI that was put over him. It was overlaid over his own face in the scenes. I mean, he wandered around crawling on his hands and knees to be at the same, you know, level eye line wise that Gollum would be. He took it very seriously. And I think we saw in that performance we saw the actor. We didn't see the CG. We saw the actor.
Yeah, I think it, all in all, I think it added to the viewing experience of, you know, Lord of the Rings. Not that this is about them, but
no, it's not.
Talking about actors being able to bring something to life like that and The Last of Us. I mean.
When in video games had always kind of been not taken seriously as an art form for a long time. And because for a long time, they weren't able to achieve the same
cinematic
quality of a film or a television show, but it can now, and they do. Pretty much every game that's a narrative-driven experience really tries to give you a story, and put actors in motion capture and in the studio to record dialogue. And these people behind the scenes, Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker, they're great. They are great actors, and I love that they put them in the show because it gives you a chance to see, no, these are good actors. Right. Like, they're known very well to people in our circle because Troy Baker, and they pop up in other games, right? These are people who've lent their voices to other characters that I've fallen in love with. So I've always said, man, that's what makes the game so impactful is the actors really sell the narrative to you. They make it believable. Even though you're looking at a CG image, they make it believable. You see their performance coming through and who the characters are. And so, again, I think it was cool that they did that, but I think they translated that very well into a television show. I think they captured those moments from the video game because essentially watching the television show, I mean, it's not completely this, but watching the television show is just sitting down and watching the cutscenes of the video game, right? we're getting the big narrative beats of the story along the way.
Right.
Not a lot of the time in between is spent fighting off clickers or rifling through drawers for resources and crafting shivs and ammo and stuff. Like, it's nonsense. It's video game stuff, right?
Yeah.
While I love that, it's not fun to watch.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you did a 9-episode series, hour-long episodes, somebody just going through drawers, people would be like, well, you fucking lost me 12 minutes into the first episode.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch. And that's coming from someone whose, spouse likes to sit down and watch me play video games. And those are the times when she's on her phone.
Right. Oh, for sure.
And then she'll put her phone down when a big cutscene comes, and she's
the important stuff.
Right.
She's like, "Ooh, how was the story progressing?"
So she experienced the story in kind of the same way the show tells you the story. I, on the other hand, experienced the story in, earning all of those moments, getting the tools and fighting the enemies and earning those moments. Which is why when I got to the end of the show, it left me feeling. And it's not a bad show. I really have nothing bad to say about it other than it kind of made those moments that hit me so hard in the video game emotionally not land as well, because the actors are beautiful. They're doing a great job with the characters. There's no doubt about that. But because the story is so well known to me and so kind of burned into my brain, the big moments when you're in the game, you're watching the show, watching Joel run through the hospital and murder everybody. That's a great scene. That is where you see the monster that Joel had to become to survive in this world. And it's disheartening, right? Because when you meet Joel in the beginning of the story, he's a good man. He's working hard. He's just trying to support his daughter. His wife's obviously not in the picture, or her mother is not in the picture, whatever that might be, whatever relationship that was. But he had to become a monster, and that's where we finally see that monster. The difference is in the video game, I'm that monster.
Right.
I'm the Joel running through the hospital, murdering every Firefly in sight. So it makes the ultimate expression of that moment when he kills the doctor and he frees Ellie not feel as earned from someone with my perspective.
Sure. I have never, ever, ever, and I think it's actually brilliant, I've never heard somebody say, earned a cutscene.
Yeah. You earn it, right? You work hard. You get to that moment because you can die over and over and over again and you'll never get to that moment. It's that moment when you overcome that, you earned that moment.
Well, it's a brilliant way to position it because it changes the way that you kind of view the game too.
Right.
Sometimes if I'm playing through something and I feel like, oh, fuck, it's kind of grindy right now. I don't get to that and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm just like, fuck, I got to get through this.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a grind. It's not, there's no goal there other than getting to the next point.
Yeah, the reward in a narrative-driven game is that next piece of the story. That's the reward that they give you for the work that you put in.
That's fair.
Right? I mean, I'm going through the Resident Evil 4 remake right now, and that's the work you put in, right? That's you earn those big moments, right? That's why most of that game, its cutscenes happen at the beginning and the end of a chapter.
Right.
So you have to go through that chapter to earn that. You work hard, man. Some of those things are not easy to do, and it's double in The Last of Us. I mean, clickers are not easy to deal with. You can't just run in guns blazing when you're fighting a horde of clickers, because they will overwhelm you very quickly, and they're very resilient to gunshots.
Right.
Right. The best way to take out clickers is to be quiet and sneak up on them and just stab them in the brain and be done with it. And that's how the game handles those moments. And I think that came across in the first scene we see clickers.
Oh my God. Did it ever though?
If we make a sound, we're screwed.
Yeah. And then
they're going to overwhelm us.
Well, and these characters that are basically established as badasses and stuff.
Sure. Tess and Joel, they're very good at this.
When you're watching them go at these clickers and they're shooting them and it's like, oh, that sucks, but they're still coming after you. That came across. It translated very well that they are not your run-of-the-mill, bullshit NPC kind of thing.
Right. And if one clicker hears you, they all hear you.
Yeah, with their hive mind.
They're connected.
Yeah.
They all know where you are. If one spots you, they found you. They're all going to come rushing in very quickly.
So, okay, that was a cool moment in the series then where you get to see how just badass the clickers actually are.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely highs that were very high, right? I mean, meeting the bloater is a very high.
Right.
That's a moment when you're not really necessarily expecting to see that thing. We know those things exist, but we're not really expecting when we're going to see it. And the horde that comes out of that cavern seems like the threat.
Right.
That is the threat. There's no more threat than that until you see the bloater coming out of the opening.
Yeah.
With his giant, I mean, the guy that played that, he said, he was like, that thing weighed like 80 pounds to wear. He wore pretty much the whole top half of the costume.
Such a good idea, though, to do practical effects here.
Yeah.
Oh
Clickers looked
God.
really good. They managed to make them look
incredible.
not only terrifying, but accurate to how they've been portrayed in the other medium.
Yeah. I thought that so with Joel in particular, like seeing his daughter taken away from him.
Yeah.
And he feels responsible for it.
Sure.
And like, that's one of those things that was absolutely instrumental into portraying the character properly.
Yeah.
But they did
You
it
have to see that
so
prologue.
very well.
And you see that prologue in the game. I mean, one of the things that was talked about at the time when the game came out was that was one of the best intros to a video game you could ask for.
Right.
It has everything. It has the fear. It has the tension. It has the tragedy. It has the horror of this moment. Planes falling out of the sky, people crashing into gas stations, explosions. It's terrifying to think about this kind of outbreak, this kind of zombie outbreak. I mean,
Right. Well, then with him, it gives you this. He tells, you hear the story later on about they missed.
Yeah.
With the scar, and it's just like his character was so fleshed out.
That's not in the game, though.
Sure.
Right? That is something they added. And I actually kind of thought that was a really good idea.
Great add-on.
Right? It kind of adds a depth to Joel's character that really helps inform why he's so resistant to getting close to Ellie to begin with. When
Of
Ellie
course.
clearly wants to get closer to him.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
she sees him as a father figure.
His everything was taken away from him at one point in time, and it was so much as everything that he was willing to remove himself from the world because
how
the
many
world's already gone to
right,
shit.
Exactly. In that situation, how many of us would have made that same calculus?
I said to my mom not that long ago, I'm like, if something happened to all my kids, I'd check out.
Yeah.
I'd be done. Like, there'd be no point in being in this world as far as I'm concerned. So that's relatable as a character.
Exactly, yeah. And that's, I think, what, Joel, Pedro Pascal is kind of all our daddies right now. Right?
He fucking totally is.
He's our TV dad right now. He's the dad in all our favorite shows.
Oh my God, is he? Well, he's, I saw.
He's this generation's Danny Tanner. He's our TV dad.
Did you see the meme? It's this strong man carrying two giant like tires or something.
Yeah, one says Star Wars and one says Last of Us.
Yeah, and it's his face on it, Pedro Pascal's face on it.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant, man, because he is that guy right now. And it's so funny.
He's our TV dad.
But then the folks at Saturday Night Live, man, with their Super Mario Kart thing that they did with him
be honest
in
with
it.
you, I don't watch modern SNL anymore.
It's so I don't either.
I will occasionally watch Weekend Update because I think Michael Che is very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of Colin Jost, but I think Michael Che is a very funny guy. I watch his stand-up. But yeah, I'm not a modern SNL guy, so I didn't see any of that. I heard about that.
I'm not either, but it was immediately all over the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a little clip of him in the cart.
Because they talk about him, oh, you gotta escort somebody, and it's just like, oh, okay, yeah.
Of course.
And it's so well done, but that's his character and everything, and he's fucking awesome.
It's not in everything. My first experience with Pascal, and this is probably not the first thing he did here in America, but it was definitely the first thing I was like, whoa, this guy's really good, was watching Narcos on Netflix.
I never watched Narcos, and I know everybody says it's incredible.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a very good show about, what's his name? The drug kingpin guy from Colombia.
Oh, yeah.
Real guy.
Fuck. Yeah, no, that fella.
Yeah, that guy. I don't know. I don't follow drug kingpins. So
We don't follow the cartel.
yeah, I don't follow the cartels.
He doesn't wear a suit. So
But that guy. Somebody in the comments, tell us who that guy is.
If he wore spandex, we would give a shit.
Somebody in the comments, tell us who that guy is. You guys know who that guy is.
I'd be like, he's a fucking supervillain.
He is. I mean, he was a real life supervillain.
Right, but I'm saying if he wore spandex, he'd be a real supervillain.
Then we'd know who he was.
He fucking he sold himself short.
But no, Pedro Pascal's in that show. He's a DEA agent.
Right.
Hunting this dude down and trying to build a case against this dude. And he's badass. Like, he acts opposite, I can't think of his name. He was in Logan. He played the guy hunting him down. He was also in the Predator movie. He fought the Predator.
I went to Deadpool and Ajax when you said Logan.
No, Logan.
Oh,
the one where he's old.
Yes.
There's like a guy with a robot hand hunting him down. Boyd Holbrook.
Okay.
So he and Boyd Holbrook, Pedro Pascal plays like the native guy.
Yeah.
Who works for the agency here in this country, and Boyd Holbrook plays the American cowboy guy that's coming in, with the CIA or whatever, the FBI or whatever. Yeah, he's the American cowboy guy. And Boyd Holbrook has a Southern accent, so he just does his accent. He just speaks normally. Right. He did it in Logan too. I think that's actually his accent.
Well, I
don't know. Maybe
I think if you have that guy in something, to not have him have a Southern draw is criminal.
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing yourself a disservice, not him.
Exactly.
You.
Yeah. But so Pedro Pascal, he's fantastic. But the thing, so going into it, I know Pedro Pascal is fantastic.
Yeah.
The thing that really got me was how fantastic Bella Ramsey is as Ellie.
Oh, she's wonderful.
She absolutely nails who the character should be. Ellie loves deeply. Ellie is serious very serious when it's time to be serious. Ellie is goofy. She's a goofy human being.
I mean, she's still a kid,
But that carries into the second game.
Right.
She's still a goofy human being. That's her personality. She's goofy. When they walk into the hotel, they took that right from the game when she walks up to the counter and rings the bell and says, 2, checking in. We'll take your finest suite, please. Because she's just goofy. She's a goofy little kid, And she's a goofy adult later.
Well, I mean, when you're in that world, though, if that's where you were, you would have to find
you have a sense of humor
or something, man, or you go crazy.
Yourself.
Yeah, it'd be awful. So, props to her.
But I will say, one of the things I do want to talk about, because it is something that was really, I think, well done to me and a welcome change, is the only real point where they deviated from the story heavily, and that was telling us a story about Bill and Frank.
Okay.
Because Bill is a character you meet in the game. You hang out with him for a while. He joins you in some fights while you're in his town trying to get a car to drive Ellie to Fireflies. But by the time you get there is no Frank. And Bill kind of ominously talks about how you better cut this kid loose because having a partner, man, it's going to screw you. Someone that you love, someone that you have to watch out for, someone that you care about. It's not going to help you in this world because it's the apocalypse, right? And Bill is a survivalist. Bill is a realist about this world that he lives in.
Yeah, he knows that solo's the only way you're not going to be disappointed when you have a broken heart.
And then we get to a home that they take shelter in, and there's a hanged man in there, and it's Frank. And he left Bill a note. It's never outright stated that Bill and Frank were lovers, but it's heavily implied. Because Bill is the kind of guy who doesn't want to talk about it, right? And they portrayed him, Nick Offerman portrayed him that way in the show, right? He is the guy who doesn't like feelings. They make him uncomfortable, And Frank was the guy who did. And that led to a friction between them, the one who does versus the one who doesn't.
Right.
And
when we have people over.
So Bill clearly has a moment when they find Frank hanged because he had been bitten and he decided to hang himself as opposed to turn. So you can see that Bill is affected by this, but he goes back into his macho persona and he tries to shrug it off. And you find a note from Frank that's very heartfelt but also insults Bill because, again, they were arguing, they were fighting, they're not the same person, and therefore they couldn't make their relationship work. So I think reworking that story was good, was an interesting way to tell us who Bill was in the apocalypse. And Bill, I think when you look at Bill, when we meet him, he's definitely what we would consider in our world to be one of those doomsday preppers.
Oh,
100%. The guy that's got just too many guns, the guy that's got a bunker under his basement.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is the doomsday prepper guy. This is the guy that's the most prepared for this. He's ready. He's been ready for 20 years.
As soon as the government oversight leaves his little area, he immediately goes and restores power brilliant.
Oh yeah, he's Ron Swanson in the apocalypse.
Well, no, so that's something when we were watching the show, I just thought that was the funniest thing. I'm like, man, we're watching
what Swanson would do.
We're watching Nick Offerman. That's really what this is at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Because he brings a lot of his, his identity,
his
to his characters. Yeah. He brings a lot of his identity to his characters, and I love him for that. I think he's a great actor. But acting opposite him, Murray Bartlett, also a fantastic actor.
Very good actor.
Who really comes into Bill's life, and what Frank sees, the way they tell us that story, I think what Frank sees is someone who needs love. And what Bill sees is someone who
is going to get himself hurt.
Who he'll have to protect.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't stop them from going for it. And I think telling us that story instead of just implying it was a lot more impactful. I was a little disappointed that Bill and or Frank don't meet Ellie.
Sure.
Because Ellie and Bill had some really good interactions in the video game, because Bill just thinks she's a dumb kid and Ellie is not silent when she's angry. So is openly insulting Bill and just being kind of generally a dick to Bill.
Right.
But Bill's being a dick to her, so it kind of just all balances out.
It's this nice butting of heads.
Yeah. And it provided some really good humor in the game. But no, that episode was powerful, man. That episode was emotional. It made me emotional. And the little things that were great, like when they were fighting, and Frank says to Bill, "You think the government are all Nazis?" And Bill's response in real time, because this is the apocalypse, is the government are all Nazis.
Right.
Because that's what happened. Fedra are just Nazis.
Right.
Right? Like, that's what happened. And Frank's response to that is, well, yeah, now, but not then. To Bill getting a little angry that Frank traded away one of his guns for seeds.
That was amazing.
But then eats the strawberry and laughs like a little kid, right? Because think about, and one of the things that the reason that was so impactful is think about what you take for granted,
right?
And what you would miss if you couldn't access it at any time,
right?
Fruit, right? Fruit would be one of those things. If you hadn't had a strawberry in a decade, and you had a strawberry again for the first time, it would blow your mind.
Well, not just one. You have a whole a whole ass plant full of them.
Those little moments that were just two people just trying to have a life in a terrible world.
Right.
That was beautiful. It was beautiful. And there was a lot of hate, right? Because, there's insane people who just are so bothered by the idea that all relationships don't have to be heterosexual. But I would argue that if what you were watching there was a man and a woman, if it was Bill and Francine, would you have felt the same way? No, you wouldn't have. So why can't these people have love? Because you wouldn't have felt the same way. If it was Bill and Francine, nobody would have complained.
Sure.
Nobody, except maybe video game purists,
right? Who
know that Bill is gay,
right? Yeah, I could take it or leave it. I liked the Bill story, and
it's a beautiful story of love in a terrible world.
Well, it was his characters. Both the characters there are brilliant.
They are played by actors who are very good at what they do.
Right. Yeah. But it was those characters existing was paramount in taking the story to where it needed to go, because that's how they got their vehicle.
Sure.
And it took a trip that would have taken way longer and shortened it and all this stuff. And
sure.
I thought, I don't know, I just enjoyed it. And that's how Ellie got her gun. She wanted it so bad.
Yeah.
She nabbed that shit.
Because it's the apocalypse. You should have a gun.
Right.
I don't care if you're 10. You should have a gun. It's the apocalypse.
Right.
We're teaching you how to use a gun the moment you're able to hold one.
What, you're 4 now?
Right.
Time for your firearm.
Can you hold a gun and stand your ground as it kicks? Then you're old enough to have a gun in the apocalypse. Look, I don't believe that in the real world a 10-year-old should be using a gun. But if it's the apocalypse and you didn't give me a gun, I'm going to be mad.
Well, I mean, I think the cool thing there, though, was Joel's attempt to preserve her innocence. Or
she's lived in this world her whole life. She's never known any other world.
Right, but she was within the confines of a city.
Zone. Yes. Yeah, I get it.
So she was in a safe place. She didn't see a clicker or whatever for the first time, to the best of our knowledge, until she encountered one at the mall, right?
Yeah, the mall was the first time she'd seen a clicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they're all made aware. I mean, they're children.
Of course. You don't go out here because you'll get eaten,
right?
And you'll get turned into a monster.
They have, pictures, scientific pictures of the stages of infection, right? So everybody knows what a clicker looks like, but to encounter one is not the same.
Exactly. I've seen pictures of a bear, but I've not had one charge me.
I've never encountered a bear in the wild.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think it was all about letting her stay a kid, and he did a good job with that, and that was whether he liked it or not, the whole time he was becoming a father, and it was in those little things like that.
Yeah.
Because when she has to come up and save him for the first time, he's getting his ass kicked by somebody that he didn't hear. So guy gets a jump on him, and she has to come up and save the day. He's like, you shouldn't have to do this. You're a kid. You're a baby. And
the game did that scene better.
Did they?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. The game did that scene much better.
But I like...
Same scenario.
I liked that he had this whole fatherly thing about him.
Yeah. Joel's got a guy over him, choking him, and he can't get to his gun. It's out of his reach. And all of a sudden, a bullet comes out of nowhere. And it's Ellie, right next to the guy, shot him in the head, dead. She killed him. And Joel catches his breath, and he takes the gun away. And she says, sarcastically, "You're welcome."
Mm-hmm.
And he just says, "We got to keep moving." And she says, "See, Joel, how about thanks for saving my life, Ellie? How about it was him or me, Ellie? Do you not want to have this? Do you not want us to be friends and rely on each other?" She basically just throws it all out in his face. Stop being a dick to me. We have to do this together. This is a terrible world. And a short while later, Joel just stops commenting on it. Joel just stops. He shuts down right in that moment because he is starting to have feelings for this little kid as a father. And he doesn't want that to happen, right? Because he knows that kind of love
is just going to get him hurt.
Him.
Yeah. She has to remain cargo.
Yeah. And there's a moment a short while later where there's a bunch of guys gathered and Joel's about to go down and Ellie says, "Let me help." And he goes, "If you shut up, you'll realize I am." And he hands her a rifle and he says, "Only fire if I have fired," right? Basically setting up the idea that if you go in guns blazing, Ellie's going to start taking shots. If you be sneaky, Ellie will just stand there. She won't do anything. Following his lead. And she's excited by that. And he's like, "Do you know how to?" And she's like, "Yeah, I got this." Right? Yeah. She knows how to use this rifle. And as you're about to leave, as the cutscene's about to end, he's about to jump down into the area with the dudes. He looks over and he says, "And you're right. It was him or me." And that's it. That's all that
is pretty good
to be said. And that's all that will be said. Joel's not going to say thanks for murdering a guy, but Joel is going to acknowledge that it was him or me. Right? I appreciate what you did. You shouldn't have had to do it,
right?
But I appreciate it. And the show leaned a little harder into the you shouldn't have had to do it side of things. Joel understands this world is terrible. And that the most terrible thing in this world is not monsters, it's people.
Right.
People in a lawless society lost their minds.
Well, in the society that has law,
yeah,
it's not good law.
Oh, no, the society that has
You're
law
in a dictatorship.
is Nazis. Yeah, they're just Nazis. So the game did that idea of the scene better. That's not to say it wasn't a good scene in the show, but Ellie, I think what they portrayed Ellie as is a little more fragile than Ellie is in the game. Ellie doesn't want to have to kill people, but when she does, it doesn't break her up. The only time it really broke her up is when she murders David. And the only reason that breaks her up is because she really wanted that man to die. It wasn't about defending herself. It wasn't about saving others. She wanted that man to die because she saw something in him that needed to go.
Saw that monster, yeah.
That's why that murder is emotional for her. Every other murder that's happened throughout the games, she has no emotion about that. She's tough. She understands that it's them or us.
Right.
Because this is the world we live in now. And it's only, again, it's the only world she's ever known.
Yeah, it's the fucking Wild West. Yeah.
She lived under Nazi regime, and now she's out here in the Wild West with cannibals and crazy people.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Highway warriors and shit. It's all Mad Max out here now. That's one of my favorite moments, and they did it perfectly. They recreated it exactly, the same lines and everything.
Yeah.
When they're driving into Kansas City, and the guy comes out, "Oh, help me. Oh, man, I'm dying." And Joel just turns to Ellie and says, "Buckle your seatbelt." Yep. And she goes, "Aren't we going to help him?" And he goes, "He ain't even hurt." And he just hits the gas. That's the exact line of dialogue from the video game. He ain't even hurt. And hit the gas.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. Brilliant. So yes, as far as recreating the moments of the game, chef's kiss.
Lovely.
Beautiful.
Just lovely.
They did a beautiful job.
I've not played through the game, but I would after watching the series.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people tell me that recently.
Oh, really?
Oh, shit, I'm going to play the game now.
Well, so...
it's about to be on PC.
It is on PC.
Did
so
it finally come out?
Yeah, so you can actually order... If you buy a GPU right now through a certain company, they will give you a free copy of it.
Okay.
Part 1, I guess that's the first game, right?
Yeah, part 1.
Okay, so yeah, you can get a free copy of Part 1.
Yeah.
And it looks beautiful.
Yeah, and Part 2's been on PC for a while, I think.
Good while, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I think you've been able to get it like on Steam or Epic or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you can find a digital download of that in a bajillion different places, you know.
Well, sure, yeah.
But yeah, the series as a whole, like, it had a really interesting coming of age story happening because you're watching this with the kid and she's making her way in a fucking shit world where, for all intents and purposes, I guess she is being raised by Nazis, but it's also that's the only safe thing for a kid at that point in time, unless you live in Joe's Brother's utopian.
The Hitler
place.
Youth were a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So safest place for her was in a Nazi concentration camp, or not concentration camp, but Nazi run city, and
it was kind of a concentration camp.
A little bit.
Everybody had work orders and papers, and
I guess it was kind of like
pretty much a concentration camp,
like a ghetto, not a concentration camp.
Like a ghetto. Yeah, probably more like a ghetto.
Yeah.
But they were just letting people go, right? Like they were just throwing people out because there was just not enough food to go around.
Well,
so they just started, like, even the pettiest of crimes was like a kick out of the zone offense,
or you're getting hung.
Littering. Oh, you get kicked out of the zone. You're out of the zone. You better hope there's no clickers around because you're gone. We ain't protecting you no more. Because I mean, look, were they Nazis to begin with? Yeah. But ration and food shortages turned it into a very desperate situation.
Sure.
And that's how groups like the Fireflies and the WLF were born, right?
Right.
These resistance groups, they're like, you guys are Nazis, and we could do it better. And we're going to kill you all and show you. Well, I guess not show you. You'll be dead. We're going to kill you all, and we're going to
show
do it
everybody
better.
else.
We're going to show the people that we can do it better. And people like Joel don't respect the Fireflies because Joel looks at any of those splinter groups as just another Fedra.
Right. It's just the next
You're going to face
Nazi
the same
regime.
problems that Fedra faced with food shortages and revolts and criminality. It's just another.
And then what
regime.
are you going to do? How are you going to handle it different?
How are you going to do
it? Yeah, right.
You're not going to become dictators? No, you will.
Yeah. Let's be real about what happens here.
Yeah. The WLF in the second game is a good example of that. Isaac, their leader, he's a Nazi. I mean, he is. There's a group of people that live on an island near him, and he just doesn't like them. He just wants them gone. Like, they have a weird truce, but he does everything he can to, like, break that so that he can just kill them all. Because he doesn't like them. I don't want him in his town. You get out of my town. I don't want you here anymore.
You guys don't belong here.
I mean, that's what it is, right? He's a Nazi.
He's Napoleon.
He's a Nazi. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Nazi's a funny thing. We throw that one around very, very... We're kind of silly with how we throw it around. He's not National Socialist, but he is a total dictator shit.
I mean, yeah, I think in a slang type of way, Nazi just refers to anybody who is down for fascism.
Tyrannical, yes.
Right. If you're down for fascism, you're a Nazi. I mean, I'm not saying the Nazis invented fascism, but they were the first ones to almost conquer Europe with it.
They were the poster children for it. Almost conquered Europe. Napoleon had a good run. He had a good run.
Napoleon had a good run.
He was. You could definitely argue that he was a fascist dictator.
I'm not even one of those flag-waving kind of patriot people, but when you look at World War II, if America hadn't gotten involved, Hitler would have taken over Europe.
Everybody was fucked.
He would have taken over all of Europe.
Yeah, everybody was fucked.
He had Russia on his side. There was a pincer move. There was no way they would have won.
Yeah, and he was in a position to where he was.
And the USSR was huge back then.
Right, and he was in the process of developing nuclear weapons. Like, we know that was a thing too. We stole some of his peoples.
Yeah, all his scientists came here and made nuclear weapons and rocket engines and all that kind of stuff for us.
And then we killed a bunch of other people with them. Like, whole thing. It was weird.
Yeah, imagine that. But yeah, so I think overall, winding, to kind of a conclusion, I think it's a great representation of the narrative of the video game.
Yeah, like obviously because it's not. How long is a cutscene in one of those games? Maybe 2 minutes.
No, you have some that go, 8 to 10. You have some that are longer. Shit, Metal Gear Solid 4 had a cutscene that went for 32 minutes.
Okay, that's fucking respectable because that's a TV show at that point.
Like you went for 32 minutes of cutscene.
But as far as like what you have to make an entire 9-hour series out of or whatever it was, 10 hours, they probably didn't have 10 hours of cutscenes in the game, did they?
No, probably not.
So you're filling in some blanks there and stuff like that. They did a great job. One of the scenes that they talked about at the end of the series was where Ellie's feeding the giraffe or whatever.
Yeah.
They were like, we had to take this straight out of the game.
Yeah, it's shot for shot.
And it's fucking awesome.
People on the internet have put those up side by side. It's like shot for shot.
It's the game. It's so good. It's this moment of just complete awe and wonder, and it's cute.
Ellie's never seen a giraffe in her life.
No, and why would she see a giraffe?
She lived her whole life in a quarantine zone.
Right.
She's never seen a giraffe before.
I mean, think of it. We would not see them if we didn't export them from other countries.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have
zoos, have a fucking free in St. Louis, we have a free ass zoo that we can go see them at.
We wouldn't see giraffes either.
There's no way we'd never see them.
No, they're not native to our country.
No. So, like, I can only imagine being a kid that's never experienced anything
never
really.
Never been to a zoo,
right? And you get to go and. There's a fucking herd of them grazing out of a building because it's half collapsed and shit. Yeah. So cool, man.
Yeah, I think that was another thing they did really well is the world felt very lived in. The world felt very authentic to a post-apocalyptic society. The vegetation that had overtaken buildings, the one building that was just like collapsed because no one was keeping up the infrastructure, so it was just collapsed onto the building next to it.
Right.
Like, brilliant. I mean, all was shot beautifully. All the backdrops looked really beautiful. All the sets were very apocalyptic.
Well, it was, I thought everything was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then, like, again, you're in this dark, shitty world, and they have these just sparkling moments, and they brought those to life very, very well. Like,
yeah, they did.
I thought the whole thing was super exciting. Did you have anything in particular that just kind of made the show for you, or?
Yes, actually. And it's such a silly thing, and he's only in a few of the episodes, but the guy who played Tommy, Gabriel Luna, is that his name?
I think that's it.
Yeah. He sounds like Tommy from the video game. Like, he did a spot-on impersonation of video game Tommy. I mean, when he came on screen and started talking, I literally, like, covered my eyes and was like, why does he sound exactly like video game Tommy? Like, it's uncanny how much he sounds like the video game character. And the video game character, the guy who portrayed him in the video game, is in the show. He plays the right-hand guy of the woman that runs the Kansas City crazy people.
Crazy lady.
Yeah. He's the military guy with the beard.
Yeah.
That's the guy who played Tommy.
I did not realize that. The one that gets manhandled by the bloater or whatever.
He gets like torn apart by it.
Yeah,
he gets picked up and ripped in half by it.
Yeah.
He had the best death in the whole series.
He really did, didn't he?
He gets ripped in half by the bloater. And then Troy Baker, who played Joel in the video game and voiced Joel and motion captured Joel, he plays, I can't remember his character's name. He's David's right-hand guy.
Okay.
The cult leader,
yep.
Religious zealot guy. He's the right-hand guy of him is Troy Baker. And Troy Baker,
that's cool.
Yeah, Troy Baker didn't even know who he was going to play. He came on set assuming he was going to be dressed up like a clicker or something. But they were like, no, like you're this guy. I don't remember what this guy's name is. James, that was his name. Yeah, when she meets David, he says, "This is my friend James."
Yeah.
It's James. He plays James. And Troy Baker's response to that was like, James is like a major part of that arc. Like, you really want me to play a character that's that important? Yeah, important is the wrong word. James is there.
Right.
They do more with James in the show than they did in the game. In the game, James just a guy who gets killed.
Right, but I think when you're expecting to go somewhere and more or less be an extra, just for fanfare, to get a role where it's like, oh, you're actually going to get some screen time.
No, you got lines and screen time.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool as shit.
Yeah. And rarely does Troy Baker get to come out from behind a microphone.
Right.
He's usually a voice actor guy.
Right. It's like Kevin Conroy. You know what I mean? He was always like this.
Yeah. They rarely get to come out from behind the microphone and play characters in, live action things. And then Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the game, who will continue to play Ellie, I'm assuming, in the future.
I'm
there's
sure.
a third game coming. Plays Ellie's mother in the flashback.
Total badass, too.
Yeah, the woman who gives birth to Ellie. Which, look, is that cool that she got to do that? Absolutely. We don't see Ellie's mother in the video game.
Right.
And I think the only reason they did that is because they wanted us to understand Ellie's immunity a little better. But, I'd argue that's not really necessary. Again, I'm glad Ashley Johnson got something to do, and I think it's a cool way to tell the story in a television show. But Ellie's immunity, it should be this magical thing. It shouldn't have a rational, shown to us explanation. It should be this magical thing of like, how are you immune?
Sure.
You were born into immunity? Like, we don't know.
No, but I thought I think the thing that kind of really stands out about the series as a whole is it's a love story. Like, all of it. It's a series of love stories just kind of strung together and interwoven and all that. Mm-hmm. And they all translate very well. And even the scene with her mother, we see a love story there because her mom is holding her baby with a knife to her own neck. Like, oh, I'm going to off myself if I start getting silly because I'm not going to hurt this baby.
Well, right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then, she's like, hey, take my baby and just kill me.
Yeah. And I think those moments are necessary for, television.
Sure.
To kind of help the audience understand how all these things fit together. I will say I enjoyed the scene, and I definitely enjoyed the other scenes that are kind of just setup scenes, like the opening of the first episode with the guys arguing about fungal growth, and basically the one guy admitting like we would not be able to stop something like that from happening. Mm-hmm. Like that would destroy us. Yeah, and it does. And I'm going to go on record. The woman who played the mycologist that they brought in the intro to the second or third episode, mm-hmm. where they flash back to
the Asian lady,
the early days of the outbreak. Yeah. That woman should win all the awards because
bomb the city.
Because when you see her understanding of this go from consternation to understanding to abject terror, she sells all of that without uttering a single word.
She did.
And it's brilliant because she says, still with concern but not fear, how many people are missing? When he says 15, you see her go from that to abstract terror in her face.
Right.
And he says, what should we do?
Yep.
And she says,
bomb the city.
Bomb the whole city and everyone in it. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go be with my loved ones.
Right.
That woman, brilliant. And she's not even speaking English. She's speaking whatever language of the place they were in is. Right. It's brilliant. She absolutely was brilliant.
Now she's
on screen for 3 minutes.
I was going to say her part is very short.
Yeah, she has no words other than confusion until they get her to where she's going, and that lasts about 3 to 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, and that's where you gotta take your hat off to the director too, because everybody sold it. It's not like you had one person carrying the whole thing. Everybody sold it.
I will say she carried that scene.
Of course, but she was supposed to.
But again, she's only in that one moment. We never see her again. She's not important. It's just a framing device.
She's our focal point in that scene, though. So she has to be the one to sell it. And yeah, everybody that was in that show, it was like, I guess that's a director's job to make sure everybody's selling it right. But fuck, man, they did a good job with it.
Yeah, and I don't, I don't want you to walk away from this thinking, well, they're just praising it, because I do have legitimate problems, and I've talked about some of those and how the moments don't feel as earned, and but I think overall, if you're a fan of post-apocalyptic narrative storytelling, you should play The Last of Us. And if you don't want to play a video game, you should watch The Last of Us.
Well, it's years and years and years ago when Walking Dead was pretty fresh as a series.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it, and I was just like, man, fuck this.
It's not a bad show. It's just not the comic.
I was so deathly afraid that that's what The Last of Us was going to be. It was just this new Walking Dead. Sure. And I was like, man, fuck. I didn't like that one. I'm not going to like this one. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Because it is not.
Well, and I really hope that they get around to releasing that third game before the show catches up to that moment.
God, I know.
I was actually kind of hoping that the ending, when the series ended, that there would be some kind of impending announcement that, hey, the third game's actually in development. So in addition to working on this television show, Neil has written the third game, and it's going into development. Because I really need that to happen. I don't want to get another Game of Thrones situation where it's on the writers to tell the ending of the story, because I want to see Neil tell the ending of the story. It's his story.
Right. Give him his fucking pen and let him finish it.
Yeah. I want to see Neil do this. And presumably the second game could actually be split into 2 seasons of television.
Is it longer than the first?
It's longer than the first for sure, but it's also narratively 2 separate stories. The story that Ellie gets into and the story that Abby gets into.
Okay.
Abby is an entirely different character that crosses paths with Ellie at key intervals throughout the story.
Sure.
But it's about gaining perspective from a different side, and so you follow this woman, Abby, who's a part of this group called the Washington Liberation Front. She's a former Firefly. So it's presumably you could split that into 2 separate seasons of television. You could go into the second season and tell us Ellie's story and end, bookending it
at a crossover point.
At the crossover between the 2 of them late in the game, and then jump back like they did in the game and tell us the same 3 days of story from Abby's perspective.
Interesting. Because
they're both in the same place. They're both in Seattle.
Yeah,
so we literally watched 3 days of Ellie's story, and then we watched 3 days of Abby's story. And at the end of those 3 days is where their stories intersect with each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would almost need to record that at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah, I would think that. I think that'd make the most sense.
They don't interact as much as maybe I'm implying. It's only a key couple of moments throughout the story where their paths cross.
I'm sure it is something along those lines, but when I say record it all at once, I mean, because then, if it's dark on, day one or I don't know, they probably don't need to. I'm just ridiculous. I'm thinking of this like it's fucking Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, no, you got to sit in a room together.
You got to make all of it at once
for 3 years and record it all. Go. You guys got this. Yeah. Good luck.
And there was some talk that, Bella Ramsey might not come back and play Ellie because there's a time jump in the next game, but that has been shot down. Bella Ramsey's absolutely going to come back and continue playing Ellie.
It'd be a fuck up not to have her do it.
Yeah, it was just great. It's a great actress.
Now, I will say, what was the name of the actress that actually voiced her?
Ashley Johnson.
The 2 actually kind of look alike. Like, that was... Well,
that's funny because Ashley Johnson doesn't look like Ellie.
In the game, no.
Ellie actually looks more like Elliot Page.
Yeah.
Than Ashley Johnson.
And that's what's so funny about it is I like looking at him, I'm like, man, I typically, if you see a mother-daughter or a father-son in a movie, you're like, dude, you're not fucking selling anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I know without a shadow of a doubt, you didn't come out of those balls. And I was like, man, that is one of the better looking mother-daughter pairs. I thought to myself, I was like, I wonder if they're actually related or something. No,
not.
one of them's fucking straight up from England, and then the other one's not. You know,
Bella Ramsey is British,
full blown British.
a British person.
Yeah, I heard her talking, and I was like, "You people need to quit taking our jobs."
Oh, shut up! Good gosh,
she did a beautiful job.
She did. She's very good.
So yeah, I couldn't fathom locking in a goddamn accent like these people do. They're incredible.
Tom Holland does it too.
I know he does. He's a piece of shit.
Full on.
Andrew
English.
Garfield did it too.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh my God, yeah, he is Doctor Strange, isn't he?
Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't nail it all the time. It's
No.
actually kind of funny because there's the occasional cadence where you can hear the British in the way he pronounces something, and I'm just like, you fucked up there, bud.
They're
I
like-
heard you're British there.
They're like, "Will you take this aluminum foil?" And he's like, "Aluminium."
Aluminium. Yeah, I heard you're British there in
Yeah.
that pronunciation of aluminum, bud.
Don't you call it aluminium?
Aluminium?
You're coming across as one of those Europeans.
But yeah, ultimately, like I said, I think if you want to experience this narrative, it should be in video game form. But if you don't like playing video games, the show's a pretty good substitute.
I'm just gonna say, I experienced it in show form first. You should experience it that way, but I'm definitely gonna be playing the game after watching the series because it was lovely, wonderful, and all that.
Yeah.
So we can put a button in it there. You guys need to go to entertainthegeeky.com. There you can find links to all of our social media and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Really, that's just kind of a hub for us right now so that you can get to all of our other stuff. Do us a favor. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button. We are new to YouTube, if you will. Like, yes, we've been posting content on there for years, but it was literally just the audio from the podcast, and we never made any attempt to grow it. So now we're like, okay, let's do this YouTube thing for realsies.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Leave us a like, because apparently that's a thing that helps us.
Comment,
I don't know.
Comment. Have a conversation with us.
I'm gonna throw it. I'm gonna keep doing it because every time I think about the fact that I'm on camera and people might one day watch me, I want to interact with the audience. So I'm gonna keep doing that. Hey, you tell us. You tell us. And speaking of that, you tell us, what do you want to hear us drone on about endlessly? Because we do drone on endlessly.
We can do it.
We'll do it. What do you want to hear?
While you're on our website, entertainthegeeky.com, if you click the Games tab, you can get a free copy of Merle's Truck Stop in Maine by doing promo code Geeky.
Right over there.
Right here.
Right there.
So promo code Geeky
Pillsbury Doughboy,
gets you a free copy of Merle's Truck Stop in Maine, the world famous one-page role-playing game.
Indeed.
It's a whole lot of fun. We need to do the playthrough of that. I wanted to do it weeks ago, but I'm an idiot and dropped the ball.
Yeah, we need to do that.
And if you want to sign up for the book club, you have a little bit more time left. So you can go to entertainthegeeky.com/book club to sign up for this V for Vendetta one, or we will be doing another one in the future. It involves a live stream where we're going to talk about this book with you, dear listener.
Indeed.
So thanks for hanging out. As always, stay geeky.